News, everyone! I would even say big news, everyone! One Piece. Are you ready for this? The manga that we all adore, that we've been reading for almost 30 years, is finally getting an anime adaptation, and it's announced to be released February of next year. And you know what? Good for One Piece. And it's crazy. It's been around for so long and it hasn't gotten an anime. But that happens every once in a while with manga. Like there's that one series, Parasite. I think it was released back in like the 80s. It didn't get an anime adaptation until like 2014 or something. So occasionally this happens. But yeah, good for One Piece. I'm sure Oda is proud. Okay, yeah. So the Wits Studio version of The One Piece, which is a reimagining of the entire story. I shouldn't say reimagining. That makes it sound like they're going to change a bunch of stuff. It's the same source material. Have you ever wanted to see One Piece except Luffy was a Marine? This is the story for you. Have you ever wanted to see One Piece except Zoro is a giraffe? This is the story for you. But yeah, no, they're going all the way back. Chapter 1. They're starting off a brand new series. This has been in the works for a while now. There was not a lot of information on it for a while, and now finally it was dropped that yes, on Netflix, we're going to get 7 episodes February of 2027. These 7 episodes are going to adapt around the first 50 chapters of the manga-ish, and that's going to only be up to around when Sanji joins. I'm assuming they're going to go all the way up to the end of the Baratie arc. They're stopping it in the middle would be a little strange. But yeah, that's the way they're structuring it now, and then I don't know how the release schedule for the rest of this is going to work. I assume they're going to go and adapt the whole thing, so we're just going to have to wait to see how this goes down. But yeah, going to be a lot more strict to the manga and probably not include, because in the early days of the One Piece anime, there was a few filler-only scenes and things like that. Like actually the scene where Nami first gets introduced, she shows up on that cruise ship in episode 1. Yeah, that was all anime only. That was added, and then later on we get some extra stuff. So probably just going to be, sticking closely to the manga. But I'm excited. I'm excited, especially since, like, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day. One Piece is a good series. It's just over 1,100 episodes. That's daunting. It's daunting for somebody to look at that and just be like, man, like, even if I get started now, there's still so much to cover. So starting over from episode 1, I think is a good idea, and I can't wait to check this out in February. All right, so there's the big news for today. Now, today's video, we're going to be talking about Luffy, and we're going to be talking about Emu. You see, Luffy is the sun god, and he's sort of the main character of this story. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking he's the main character of this story. Emu, also not 100% sure, kind of the main villain of this story. Actually, that one is not even really a joke, because a lot of people have sort of looked at this and been like, well, what if Emu, isn't the final villain? What if it's Blackbeard? Who knows? He's also a big contender for this. Okay, well, we'll see where it's going. But as of right now, for Elbaf, Emu is the principal villain, all right? So Loki went to go fight against Emu. Fight's not going great for Loki. A lot of his attacks really couldn't connect. He got stabbed with the Nemesis blade. That wasn't cool. He had to go into the Needhog form, and he blasted a huge, Thorheim or Thundraheim, a giant lightning breath attack at Emu. Emu sort of used the Omen to block that. Emu did take some damage. Right around the time when Emu was reminiscing about Joyboy, that kind of distracted him long enough for Loki to smack him with the hammer, and he got pile-drived into the Yggdrasil tree. You do see a little bit of blood coming out of Emu when that happens, and also when Emu first arrived at Elbaf, he coughed up some blood. Just the act of him being out of Marijois in the lower realm is something that seems to be, like, toxic to him, so not sure if, like, there's a time limit here. He does specifically say to Summers, we don't have much time, so it's probably going to be something like that, where eventually the battle is going to reach a stalemate, where neither Loki or Luffy or Emu has won, and then at a certain point Emu is going to begin to break down or something, or their body's going to start going translucent or something, and then be like, oh no, I'm out of time, I will return, Needhog, Joyboy, I will be back. And then he disappears in the wind or some shit. I don't know. But that's how the fight with Loki and Emu is going right now. Meanwhile, what's up with Luffy? Well, Luffy exhausted a lot of his energy while in Gear 5th, and the only food they had really to eat was a frozen meal at the school. So Loki is just taking this giant bread and just like shoving it inside of his mouth. Luffy can't really eat it all that well, so it took him a little longer. Eventually, I think Loki just brought down a lightning bolt to just, flash cook like everything. And so Luffy is currently shoveling a bunch of food in his mouth. We see him in the last chapter. It's a really funny scene where he's talking while shoving food in his mouth, and he's like, "What is that hockey? I don't know, man. I gotta hurry up. I gotta eat a lot of food." So Luffy's almost back up to full strength, and then pretty soon he's gonna leave the school and he's gonna go right to where Loki and Emu are fighting, which is also coincidentally, I want to make sure everybody remembers this, is next to the giant sword. The giant sword that is impaling Elbaf. By the way, really quick about that. So, in the last episode of the One Piece anime, in the Toei anime, because there is another one, we got to see Elbaf in full view. They got to the point in the chapters where Luffy meets Loki, and then Loki announces that this is Elbaf, and the camera pans out, and we see the whole tree. And in the manga, it was just that one epic double-page spread where we see the tree, and that was it. In the anime, it actually goes and gives us some close-up views of different parts of the Yggdrasil tree, of the treasure tree Atom. And we get to see those cannons. Remember the cannons that were, like, on the Sun Realm? Originally, I assumed that, like, those were just defense fortifications that the Giants had built, because it was the Warland and everything. But at least in the anime, when you look at those cannons, they look old. Like, really old. Like pre-Void Century, 3,000 years ago, First Age, same as the facility old. Now, I don't know if that was the intention, but the idea is like, oh, wait, those aren't just regular cannons. Was Elbaf at one point like a mobile, like, robot fortress kind of thing? Was it a Gundam? I don't know, but like there was some stuff there that there's like old ancient tech that's kind of all over the tree, and then you have the giant sword, which also probably harkens back, I would assume, to the First Age. I think that thing is way older than just the Void Century, right? Anyway, who's gonna pick up the giant sword? I feel Loki could pick up the giant sword, and when he's in his Needhog form, Luffy might be able to pick up the giant sword. I'm just saying, they're fighting near a giant sword. It's got to be relevant at some point. At the very least, somebody's got to mention it when they're fighting, okay? And we'll see where that goes. So Luffy's going to show up in his Gear 5th. He's going to see the epicenter of all this weird hockey that's just reverberating off of Emu. Might not even really be hockey. It's more Maki. It's the Omen, right? And so what do you think Luffy's first response is going to be upon coming face-to-face with Emu Nerona? And what would Emu's first reaction be, for that matter, okay? Because I think there's a reason why, Loki and Luffy, Oda had to, like, separate them for the moment. Like, oh, yeah, okay, Loki's gonna go and deal with Emu for right now. Luffy, you're gonna show up later, because, honestly, I think when Luffy and Emu see each other face-to-face, I don't know about Luffy, but Emu is going to lose his shit, all right? Because we've seen up until now just, like, not even directly mentioning Joyboy, just reminiscing about it. Like when Emu was talking to Loki and kind of giving him the whole spiel about people wanting domination and everything, that conversation alone that Emu was really just having with himself. I mean, he was, I guess, talking to Loki, but Loki was just like, what does that even mean, huh? And then Emu just remembers a conversation that he had with Joyboy way back in the day, and that was enough to make him go, Joyboy, is that not right? Joyboy, ghost of my past. And that distracted him long enough for Loki to just be like, all right, okay. So that's what happens when Emu just vaguely remembers Joyboy. Now imagine Luffy showing up in Gear 5th, Sun God form, being like, hey guys, what's going on? Sorry I was late to the fight. A giant piece of, like, turkey leg that he's currently eating. Who's that? And then Emu sees him. Think Emu's gonna... Okay. The easy answer to that would just be Emu freaks out and starts yelling. But let's look at this from another angle. Let's say Emu sees Luffy in Gear 5th, and Emu starts to cry. He starts to weep, like sobbing, kind of crying. Of just like... It's been so long. And meanwhile, Luffy is just, huh? What's going on, man? What's happening? Like he has no idea. What if Emu starts to laugh? What if he laughs? Because we see them in the flashback in that one silhouette panel. It's just one little panel that's like this big, but that's enough to like spark a million theories, right? On what the relationship was between Joyboy and Emu. But what if he sees him? Because that's kind of like when Emu witnessed the Needhog. When Loki transformed into the Black Dragon right in front of him and attacked him, Emu smirked and was kind of like, Needhog. Just like old times, like just kind of like reminiscing about like old friends you haven't seen in a really, really long time. And now Luffy's going to show up. Emu might just start to laugh and just be like, Joyboy, you have returned. It's been so long. Once again, Luffy has no idea what's going on here, but I think pay attention to the reaction. Whatever reaction Emu's going to have to Luffy, I think Oda's already planned out and prepared for, okay? Because that first reaction is going to be worth, like, a lot, okay? So we're going to have to wait to see how that's going to go. Now, this is Luffy we're talking about, so we're going to assume, I want to say he's going to open up with the, hey, do you poop question. But this is a little bit more of a serious situation, and all of Elbaf's at risk here, so I don't know. Luffy can be serious when he has to be, so I don't know if Luffy's going to just immediately jump to that conclusion. Also, he usually only asks that question when it's not blatantly obvious if somebody poops, like Charlie was a mermaid, Brooke was a skeleton, and so you got very different reactions out of both of them, by the way. So I don't think Luffy's going to open up with that, but I feel like he might. There's a non-zero chance he might open up with that, okay? So anyway, he's gonna see him, and probably the more logical explanation is gonna be like, hey, you're the source of all that weird hockey. Are you the one that's, trying to attack all the giants and kidnap the kids and everything? And I don't even know if Emu is going to, like, because Emu's doing this thing where he doesn't seem to acknowledge people that are, like, around him. He kind of sees them either as, like, just insects to walk through. Like, you really get the idea that Emu did not really regard Zoro or Hiruden or Sanji or anybody else with any sort of, like, oh, hello there, you are Roronoa Zoro of the Straw Hat Pirates. You are Sanji Vinsmoke, the cook. He doesn't really regard people that way. I don't think he even knows about them or cares. The idea is he learned about Luffy during Marineford and Blackbeard as well. Like, who is this kid, Monkey D. Luffy? Who is this man, Marshall D. Teach? Why do they carry that initial? What are their goals? What are they doing here? Whitebeard protected this kid. Blackbeard is he stole Whitebeard's ability. What's going on with this, right? So I get the impression Emu knows about both of them pretty well, but I don't think Emu gives any level of shit about Zoro or Sanji or Chopper or Frankie or anything like that, right? When he sees Luffy, it's not even really like he's seeing Monkey D. Luffy. He knows who Monkey D. Luffy is, but it's probably going to be in that form specifically in Gear 5th. It's going to be like, you are Joyboy. In fact, he might even start trying to have a conversation from, like, when Joyboy and him talked, like, 900 years ago. Emu's sense of time might be all warped. He's kind of insane from being, like, conscious for almost 1,000 years. I'd be insane, too, right? So this interaction might literally go with, like, ha ha ha, Joyboy, yes! Remember the last time we met each other? It was on the mountaintop where we always hung out. Remember that? Oh, and you told me that thing. You told me that joke. What was it, Joyboy? Tell me the joke. Luffy's like, dude, I think you're mistaking me for somebody else. I have no idea. What was the joke, Joyboy? What was the joke? And then maybe he starts to, like, violently lash out in rage and attack him. Now, here's another way, though, Luffy might respond to him, okay? Now, this is more of a headcanon thing, but I really want this to be the case, so I'm gonna throw it out there, all right? Now, Luffy's not the best with names, okay? He can remember names, especially if you leave an indelible impression upon him, right? Here's a good example of that. He remembered Crocodile's name when he ran into him at Impel Down. When he's down in level 6 and Crocodile walked out from the shadows, he didn't give Crocodile some goofy nickname. He was like, "It's you! Crocodile, I remember you!" Meanwhile, when Lucci shows up, did Luffy ever even learn Lucci's real name? Actually, now I'm thinking, yeah, he's heard it. He's definitely heard it. He's absolutely heard it. He just calls him, like, the pigeon guy, right? So when, like, he shows up at Egghead and they start fighting, Luffy's just, oh, hey, it's the pigeon guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it goes, right? So it depends on the villain. It depends on the character. But I want to have a scene. It doesn't even need to be Luffy actually saying something. It could just be from his perspective. He glances over. He sees IMU Nerona's form. He sees the parachute pants. He sees the staff weapon. He sees the ring that's around his back, you know, all the eyes on it and everything. And Luffy just, for a minute, maybe just Oda draws a panel of, like, Eneru superimposed next to IMU. And Luffy, for, like, a brief moment, is like, Eneru, you're back! Oh, wait a minute. No, you're not. Sorry, I confused you with somebody else. Anyway, let's fight. I want to see that. I want to see that. Even if it's just a brief kind of, like, Luffy thinks it's Eneru for a second, just because the physical appearance is sort of there. There is a similarity. And I don't think IMU Nerona would know who Eneru is. So even naming him, even if Luffy remembered his name completely and said, like, it's you, Eneru, the guy I beat up on Skypiea. Even if Luffy were to say that, I think IMU would just be like, I have no idea what the hell you're saying. It's two people having a conversation and neither of them know what the fuck is going on. All right, IMU's talking about Joyboy, Luffy's talking about Eneru, and, like, Loki's just there confused as hell. Like, I don't know what either of you guys are talking about. Can we just fight? You know, this guy is obviously evil. He looks like a devil man. There's evil black clouds coming off of him, and he's firing evil omen, you know, cannonballs at everybody. He's clearly the villain. Let's fight. All right? And so then eventually that'll happen. But, like, that initial meeting is going to be so palpable. It's going to be so symbolic. I just can't wait for it. It's going to be insane. Right? Okay? So fight gets started, and then we're really going to see, I think, we're going to get the omen and really what it is versus Haki. Luffy's going to be using Conquerors with Gear 5th, punching Loki. Luffy's going to be using Conquerors with Gear 5th, and, you know, Ryuo, every technique he's learned up until now, he's going to be using his future sight he learned from Whole Cake. He's going to be using Ryuo he learned from Wano. He's going to be using all that stuff, and he's going to be punching the crap out of IMU. IMU's going to be using these omen abilities to block the attacks. Now, when Loki was fighting against IMU, pretty much every attack he was using was with Ragnir, the hammer. Loki wasn't, like, directly touching IMU in any way. He wasn't, like, punching or kicking him or anything like that. It was always the hammer, and then he transformed into a dragon and launched the lightning breath, okay? So I think maybe Luffy actually getting into the thick of it with his fisticuffs and actually punching Imu's physical body, even if it's blocked by the omen, it's going to be weird. Like, Luffy's going to punch him, and then maybe that black fog, like the cloud, is going to, like, encroach on Luffy's hand, and it might be a weird reaction to that, where either it's going to really, really hurt Imu, like the power of the sun is hitting the power of darkness, and that's going to, like, you know, result in Imu being in insane pain, and that might actually exacerbate the timeline on how long he's going to be able to stay here before he has to maybe summon the Abyss and go back home, because there is a time limit here. There is. I don't think Imu could just stick around in Elbaf indefinitely, right? So it's either going to severely hurt Imu, or the exact opposite. Luffy punching pure darkness is going to be like, ah, it burns! You know, he's going to, like, retract. He's like, what is this black fire? Is this Amaterasu? This is weird. Or it's going to hurt both of them, like, at the exact same instance. Like, you could see a scene where, you know, Imu summons the Omen and launches it at Luffy. Luffy punches him with, like, the star gun or something, and at the exact same time, they both hit each other, and it does normal damage, but then on top of that, it does, like, extra damage. In fact, there might be some weird environmental effect or something. Like, if those two were to hit each other at the exact same time, the sky might just rip asunder, and, like, cracks begin to appear. Maybe it's something like when Whitebeard and Roger fought, and their attacks don't even, like, connect with each other, right? It's like so much Haki is reverberating. I would also really like Luffy, because Luffy, when he's in the thick of battle, and he's actually engaging with his enemy, he's like a genius when it comes to that. So he might be able to figure out, like, wait a minute, this is weird. It feels like you're giving off Haki, but it's not like any Haki I've ever felt before. And maybe Loki might even chime in and be like, yeah, now that you're actually thinking about it, Straw Hat, it doesn't really seem like he's using regular Haki. And then maybe that'll get Imu to go on his little soliloquy on what the power of the omen actually is. I mean, he sort of explained it in the last chapter, but not really. He basically just said that, like, you know, covenant and corruption and omen, these are the different paths towards the trinity of domination, right? That doesn't really explain exactly, like, yeah, but, like, what is it? Like, what are you doing? Like, how is it different from hockey? How do you master it? Are you the only person that uses this? Like, what's going on here, right? Okay. So that interaction's going to occur. It's like we already saw this kind of with Loki. Loki used Ragnar charged up with lightning to try to hit him, and there's some attacks that can get through and there's some that not. I think Oda's not really going to go anywhere with this fight. There's not going to be a definitive winner. It's not really going to see that Luffy's just going to show up and curb stomp Imu or vice versa. They're going to fight. Neither party is going to get severely injured to the point where they're like dead, and something's going to happen, and they're going to reach a stalemate, or the time's going to run out, and Imu's going to have to flee. And then there's, like, I guess nothing else to do. I guess the Battle of Elbaf has finished. Although I feel like there should be one more big twist to all this, right? Because we already did that. We already did the thing where it's like, okay, we beat up Summers. He's taken care of. We beat up Killingham. He's taken care of. Gunko's frozen in ice. She's taken care of. We're all good. And then everything's fine. And then, boom, Imu arrives, right? So to just do that again, where Imu sticks around for 15 minutes and then is like, oh, sorry, it's my bedtime. I have to go back to Marie-Joie. And then he disappears. It's like, all right, are we good? Are we fine? Is there anybody else? Does anybody else want to show up today out of a magical circle portal? And I guess the Gorosei could show up at that point. Shamrock shows back up, and he's like, sorry, I was distracted there for a minute. He walks right next to Luffy. Luffy sees him. Shanks! Oh, wait, you have another arm. Shanks, you got your arm back! Good for you! You know, I don't know. I just feel like that would be a lame way to end it, right? Like there's got to be one more shoe to drop, as it were. So what do you think that's gonna be? Do you think like before Imu leaves, he's like, ah, yes, my body is beginning to wear out. I don't have much left. Before I leave, though, let me leave you all with a parting gift. And he, like, slices the Atom Tree in half, and the whole thing begins to fall. And he's like, good luck with that shit. And then he flies back to Marie-Joie, and then everybody has to deal with a huge tree beginning to fall. And, like, Loki's like, oh, shit, and he turns into a dragon. He's like, ah! And then Luffy goes as big as he can, and everybody at once, all the giants at once have to wrap around giant ropes and, like, try to pull the tree back up. And then there's still the Heaven Lair, which they are fighting, like, you know, Loki shot Imu like halfway up the tree from the Sun Lair to the Heaven Lair. So this fight could totally go all the way up there. We could have a Dragon Ball Z moment. We could have the moment where it's like, hey, let's change the venue. I don't want the villages of the Sun Realm to be damaged. Let's head up to the Astral Realm. And they're like, okay. And then they all go up there, and then that's where the final battle takes place. I mean, honestly, I can't think of a better way for the finale of Elbaf, for an epic three-way battle between Loki, Luffy, and Imu on top of the Yggdrasil tree. There might also be a giant hawk up there, too, so pay attention to that. Loki didn't turn into the giant hawk, but there might still be a giant hawk at the top of the tree. The squirrel is real. The Needhog is real. The hawk is probably real, too, or the hawk on top of the eagle. Norse mythology's weird. But anyway, we'll see where that goes. Maybe Biblo is the hawk. Maybe, like, Otis decided to switch out the hawk for an owl. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Get excited for the One Piece Wit Studio adaptation hitting Netflix. First 7 episodes, February of next year. I think it's going to be a good one. All right. Thanks for watching. Oh, wait a minute. Although, hold on a second. I just noticed Makino's hair is still green! Her hair has never been green in the manga! Completely ridiculous! Absolutely absurd! Okay, to be honest with you, Makino's hair, I think, is canonically black. I've always liked her with green hair, so that's fine. We could keep her with green hair. That's okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tech Ig signing out. Later.